y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast, where we showcase success stories of Black and Brown veterans who have successfully unlaced the boots. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, today's episode, we will be discussing a topic that is very, very, very near and dear and close to my heart: veterans' mental health. Yes. Veterans are 2 times as likely to die by suicide than civilians, and over 125% more likely to die in a violent way via suicide. And it's our responsibility to not only shed light on the struggles of veterans and the struggles of our fallen brothers and sisters, but also to acknowledge the mental health battles that they and we face on a daily basis. So I want to start off by getting into the definitions. I know sometimes it can be kind of confusing, especially when we receive these ratings or when we're experiencing these symptoms, especially within the Black community, because we are not as familiar with things pertaining to mental health. So I want to debunk the difference between anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So PTSD is actually a form of anxiety. So PTSD is a form of anxiety that can happen to you after you experience something that is traumatic in your life, like war or different accidents or incidents. A lot of times, being in the Black community, research has shown that the things that are in your surrounding areas, like drugs and gun violence, those things can actually spark PTSD. And sometimes when we have been around them for so long that we normalize it, we don't even realize that we have PTSD. Why you want to sit by the nearest exit. When you go out somewhere in large crowds, you start feeling like, okay, I need to make sure that I know how to get out of here. I need to make sure that I'm in X, Y, and Z areas just in case something pops off. Those are signs of PTSD. Yes, I know. I didn't realize that you could have PTSD, and I don't think a lot of people realize that you can have PTSD without going to war, but yes, you can. You can definitely experience signs of PTSD and symptoms of PTSD without actually seeing a war field. And sometimes our environments could reflect what actually happens in wars, which is insane. Depression, on the other hand, is an illness. And you need medical treatment. And there's 2 types of medical treatment that you can get as it relates to depression. And let me back up. Okay, so depression is an illness, a medical diagnosis that affects how you feel, the way you think, and the way you act. So with being depressed, I think it is very, very important, especially for Black people and brown people, African Americans, Latinas, to know the signs of depression. It's not always being extremely sad. Sometimes it could be irritability. Sometimes it could be you excessively sleeping. Like, if you're not working or doing something productive, you want to just go to sleep. There's something called productive depression or functioning depression, where you can literally still have a normal life and be severely depressed. That's why you see these influencers, or even if you know somebody that was like, man, they seem like wasn't nothing wrong, and then they end up, unfortunately committing suicide or completing suicide, and you just kind of confused as to what happened. That's what functioning depression looks like. Depression doesn't always look like the way that it has been expressed to us to look like, which is like severe sadness and just, loathing. Sometimes it could be being super lethargic, or you might feel like, oh, I'm just lazy, I can't complete tasks, oh, I'm this, and you might be being hard on yourself when you literally have an illness, right? An illness. And something else that I think is worth mentioning: when you are experiencing anything dealing with mental health, I feel like a lot of people within our community don't take it seriously because you can't see it, right? You can't see depression. You can't see anxiety. You can't see PTSD. So it's like, those that don't suffer with it or that have not been diagnosed with it and think that their symptoms are normal might try to downplay what you're experiencing. Or, within the Black community, we rely heavily on religion. God is my Lord and Savior, so church people don't eat me up. But we tend to rely heavily on religion, especially when it comes to things that we're dealing with emotionally. And prayer and fasting and seeking God definitely are amazing coping mechanisms. But if you had cancer, if you had, any type of illness in your body, a cut on your arm, a broken bone, you going to the doctor. You not waiting around. You like, okay, I need to be seen by a professional. That's how we need to start looking at mental health within the Black community, because although we cannot see the scars, they're there and they need to be treated. And it's okay to say, you know what, I got some things going on internally. I got some things that I'm just, that's just not sitting right with me mentally, that I need to talk to somebody about. Now, the two forms of treatment that you can get, like I just discussed, is counseling, therapy sessions, group sessions. That would be the second part. And then the first part would be medication. A lot of times you really don't need the medication, or okay, let me not say you don't need the medication because I don't want to trigger anybody. A lot of things that we deal with could be worked through if you have a licensed clinician, therapist, or counselor. Okay. Sometimes you might not always need medication. Sometimes you might not have to stay on medication or forever. If you see a licensed therapist, if you see somebody or a counselor, and start talking about the things that are bothering you. Okay, so anxiety is a feeling of fear, dread, or uneasiness. And I want to just throw this out there because I feel like anxiety is becoming one of those bait words, right? Anxiety is becoming something like, oh, I have anxiety around this, I have anxiety around that. And people are starting not to take it seriously. And there's so many types of anxiety. Like I said earlier, PTSD is a form of anxiety. Okay. You have death anxiety. You have parent anxiety. There's so many different types of anxieties. And I also want to mention that all anxiety is not bad. Our bodies are made to keep us safe, right? That's the animalistic characteristics that we all have. Your body is designed to keep you safe and alive. So self-preservation is always going to be number one. Self-preservation is always going to be number one. Now, right? Now, when you add anxiety into that mix, that's kind of where that self-preservation comes about is, hold on, that's kind of where that self-preservation kicks in, matched with anxiety, because sometimes our anxieties, keep us safe. However, when you're dealing with an anxiety and it starts to control the way that you operate in life, the way you show up in relationships, the way you show up for yourself, it's enabling you from work, it's enabling you from building relationships, then that's when it becomes a problem. So having a healthy relationship with anxiety is something that I definitely feel like we should talk about. Anxiety of getting out the military. There's so much anxiety when you're getting out the military. As a veterans transition coach and somebody that has successfully transitioned into the civilian world, let me just tell y'all, and I'm gonna keep it a being a buck with you, you're gonna have anxiety when you get out. Like, the transitioning phase is full of anxious feelings. You have been in the military for at minimum 4 years. At minimum 4 years. I think it's 5 now. When I joined, because I'm an old head. But when I joined, it was you had to be in for at least 4 years. So you have a lot of times you're coming in straight out of high school. So you have been getting a steady paycheck. They have provided shelter for you, food for you, stability for you. And now you, especially if you aren't you aren't retiring, you're voluntarily saying, okay, it's time for me to leave. That's anxiety. Figuring out where you're going to live, figure out what you're going to do for money, medical. Don't have a family, right? Or a support system. Then that's even more anxiety, because that's kind of what the military has provided you for the last umpteenth years. So you're definitely going to have some anxieties when transitioning out. And my own personal story with anxiety, I was diagnosed with separation anxiety, and it wasn't even when I was getting out of the military. It's actually when I was transferring to a new command. So I left home. I left Alabama at the age of 18, and I was stationed in Washington State. And I stayed there 5 years. So I built a community. I met my best friend, who is now the godmother of my son. I was in a 4-year relationship there. I had civilian friends. I had a second job. I had a dope apartment. Like, my life was in Washington State. And now my job was telling me, you got to leave everything that you know in your adult life. What? 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 I gotta do what? Yeah, they were like, you gotta leave everything that you know, everything that's familiar to you, and you gotta go somewhere else and you gotta start over. And we're not really giving you a choice. Y'all, I was not ready. As somebody that has already have attachment issues, I was like, girl, you taking me too fast. So when I got to my new command, in Maryland, I had a really, really, really hard time adjusting. I missed my friends. I missed my ex. I missed my apartment. I missed the city. And I was stationed in Bremerton, Washington. So if you know, you know. If you know, you know. If I missed Bremerton, Washington, baby, I was really going through it. And it was just a lot for me to deal with until one day, I don't think I was suicidal, but I was just having these thoughts, like the anxiety would be so heavy. And now looking back on it, it was probably anxiety mixed with depression. Because when I got there like a month early, so I'm sitting up in this apartment. I didn't know nobody. I hadn't really been introduced to the people I work with yet. So I'm just in this place all by myself for a whole month. My best friend, she was in Virginia, but I lived like over an hour away from her. So it wasn't conventional for me to just get up and go see her all the time. And she was in the military too, and she was a single mom. So her time was like, she didn't really have a lot of time. And I was just sitting in this apartment drinking day in and day out because I was on transfer leave. And then when I finally did get to my command, you got to get settled in. And it was just a lot for me. And like I said, I don't believe that I was suicidal, but I had never felt something like that before. I had never felt like all my motivation was gone. It was like no matter how hard I tried to be productive, I couldn't. Like, I was just stuck. So I just started thinking like, man, I wish this feeling would go away. Like, I would take anything over this. And I had never felt that before. I had never had that thought before, and it scared me. So I was like, baby, we got to go to medical. We got to go to medical. And yeah, we need to go talk to somebody. So I went to medical, and I told them what was happening. Like, hey, this is the situation. This is how I'm feeling. These are some of the thoughts I was having. And immediately they transferred me over to behavioral health. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, these people got me in the crazy house. So I wasn't on a hold or anything, but I did get signed up they ended up sending me to Fleet and Family, and I had an amazing therapist. And she was like, yeah, you have separation anxiety. You just transferred from a new command. This is completely normal. And I'm like, other people feel like this? She was like, yes, girl. Like, this is normal. And not in a way where she invalidated my feelings or what I was going through, but she definitely let me know that I wasn't going crazy, and that what I was experiencing was normal, and that it was possible for me to overcome it. And it was just life changing. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I really want to give therapy a shot. Like, I really, really want to give therapy a shot, because at that point it was mandated because of some of the things I had shared with the therapist about the things that I was thinking. But after my mandatory sessions, I asked, could I keep seeing her, because I had never seen progress the way I had seen it after being in 3 months worth of sessions. Well, it was 4 months worth of sessions every week. So for 4 months, so like 16, I had 16 sessions. So 16 weeks straight. I was just talking to this lady. I was talking to the lady, y'all. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to see the lady. And that lady helped me. So definitely know that there are different types of anxieties, but know when you are feeling just like out of body, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to operate, or not being able to operate at your fullest potential and not being able to shake out of that, it's probably time to talk to somebody. And like I said, you can get medication for depression, for anxiety. They have anxiety medication. They have the depressive, major depressive or severe depressive medication. But sometimes it literally just takes you going to see somebody that is licensed and helping them, well, letting them help you work through those situations. Okay, y'all. So I want to open up Pandora's box a little bit. So I don't think that it's a secret of the disparities that African American and I don't think it's a secret of the disparities faced by Black and brown people in this country. I just don't think it's a secret at this point, baby. The cat is out the bag, okay? And these disparities could be economical, social, even geographical disparities, like I talked about, like your surroundings and where you grew up at. However, these disparities have unfortunately spilled over into the mental health field for our Black and brown people, but for the veterans, specifically the veteran population as well. According to the National Library of Medicine, Hispanic and Black veterans were more likely than white veterans to screen positive for lifetime post traumatic stress disorder. So that means Black and brown veterans are more likely to have lifelong symptoms of PTSD. Yeah. So, like I said, we need to know the signs. We need to know what PTSD looks like. And it could be because of our prior um, experiences and situations prior to joining. It could be that, but for some reason, there is a link between lifelong PTSD and Black and brown veterans. So, knowing the symptoms and PTSD, like I stated earlier, can happen without you being in a war zone. And let me just kind of navigate how that relates to the Black and brown population as it pertains to veterans. Hostile work environments, racism, unjust treatments or biased treatments within the ranks, right? I am so thankful for social media. I am so thankful for the exposure that the internet has allowed and the platform that the internet has allowed veterans and active duty service members to have about their experiences in the military, because I didn't have that. I joined the military in 2012, and some of the things that um I went through, especially as it pertains to racism or discrimination within the military, I just kind of knocked it up on the chin. And then the Black people or the Black women before me, and I hate to say it like this, it was just kind of like, yo, it's just something we kind of got to deal with, right? They were kind of like, yo, you got to play the game. I heard that so many times during my time of active duty. You got to play the game. You got to play the game. You got to play they game. Why? If I'm here defending my country, putting my life on the line, sacrificing time with my family, my friends, my loved ones, why do I have to play this game because I'm Black? I remember, I will never forget my first experience with discrimination or just like any hint of racism in the military. I had just got to the boat, and y'all, listen, LSSR Powell, baby, she took Sylacauga Projects with her. Okay, Sylacauga Projects was repped loudly on that boat when I first got there. Of course, I calmed down. But when I first got there, I was still 18, wild and ghetto. So there was an white first class that was also at LS. She was at LS1, and she didn't know that I was like in the vicinity of where she was located. And she said something like, "Yeah, y'all know that ghetto black girl." That's how she described me. Not the new seaman recruit. Not and I was the only female in kind of like my division, like the part of my division called S8 main one. So she didn't say, "Oh, the new girl that works down there." She could have described me in so many other ways, but the new ghetto black girl, that's how she decided to describe me. And y'all, I went off. I went off. I mean, I went completely off. And so for E1 to go off on an E6, that's kind of like, girl, is you trying to get kicked out? Yeah, it was kind of like that. But I stood up for myself and I was like, no, listen, that ain't how you describe me. My name, if you want to know my name is on my rack. There's people in here that know me. You know who I work for, you know where I work. So you need to put another label on it. And I was pulled aside by another black female that lives within our birthing. And for those that are listening that don't know what a birthing is, it's just it's a place on a ship where they basically group you by your department. So like all of supply lived in a birthing, and there's like 3 bunk beds stacked on top of each other, facing each other. So in one cubicle it's like 6 girls, 5 or 6 girls in one cubicle. And I had another black female put me aside and was like, "Yo, you can't be doing that. Like, I understand that she pissed you off, but you can't be like going off like that." And I'm like, that heifer was the one in the wrong. Who is you checking?" And she was like, "Girl, listen." That was the first time I heard it. She was like, "You got to play the game. You got to play the game." And that for me created a traumatic experience. It created a traumatic experience for me within the ranks. I wasn't new to racial discrimination because I'm a black woman from the South, baby, Alabama to be specific. So I was not new to discriminatory actions or racism or anything like that. It wasn't new for me, but I expected more within the ranks. Like, I did not expect to deal with that within the military, but it's a real thing. Also, PTSD from military sexual trauma. That's a real thing. I had shout out to Dr. Deandra Poe. Okay, period. She is a Army officer veteran that unfortunately did experience MST, and there you can get PTSD from being sexually assaulted, especially within the ranks, because these people hold your career in their hands, and you have to, and sometimes you can get blacklisted. I had a Hispanic chief, master chief, senior chief. He was an E8 when I was working for him, but he told me straight up, "Why you always helping black people? Why you always got something?" And he just like, he made, when he got to the command, and I won't say his name, but when he got there, I experienced so much discrimination. I experienced so much like a hostile work environment. I tried to report him. I tried to take it up the chain of command. I was blackballed. I was sent out. I was one of the top LSs on the boat at the time, and I was sent to work TAD. Because he held more rank than I did. He held more rank, and it was kind of like this good old boys club within, the chief community. So that was a traumatic experience for me. That was super traumatic for me, and those are things that you know you go through that are not normal within the ranks, that they try to normalize. But you have to advocate for yourself. And I know y'all, it's so hard to advocate for yourself when you are a junior sailor, when you are brand new, when you are a woman, when you feel like you have a lot to lose, when you feel like this other person is high ranking. It's scary, it's intimidating. You feel like you don't have the power, but you have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. Nobody is going to advocate for you unless you advocate for you. You know, you can have somebody that stands up for you, but how would they know to stand up for you if you don't bring it to their attention? Like, hey, this is what's going on. Right. And I want to definitely say that even though when I tried to advocate myself, I felt like it backfired on me, I'm happy that I did it because it made me a better leader. It made me a better supervisor. Once I got into those supervisor roles, I knew what I didn't want to do. I knew the type of leadership that my junior sailors needed, and I wanted to make sure that they knew what an open door policy was, not just saying, oh yeah, I have an open door policy, which an open door policy is you can come in and talk to me anytime. My door is open, but they say that, but it don't feel like that. Because when I tried to exercise it, I felt like I was condemned, but it made me a better leader. But it shouldn't have took a hostile work environment or unjust treatment for me to learn that lesson. So advocate for yourself. Things that trigger anxiety and depression post-military service. So some of the things that can trigger anxiety and depression post-military service is not having a plan. I just want to be honest. And I know that we talk about not having a plan and what that plan needs to look like. And I will be dropping an ebook soon. Called Vet to Success, kind of helping veterans navigate how to create their successful plans. But having a plan, once you realize that the military is not for you, or that you are nearing the time that you feel like it's time for you to transition out, I don't care if it's 2 years in advance. I don't care if it's the first day you got on the boat. I don't care if it's 6 months before your out date and you just had a change of heart. In that moment, that's when you need to start creating your plan. You need to start asking yourself those hard questions. Although those are the things that could trigger your anxiety, right? When you get out of the military and you don't have a plan, you're kind of just left wandering. You're left wandering around. And the military, the one great thing about it is it provides you with so much, amongst a plethora of other things. It provides you with so much structure. It provides you with so much discipline within your life that once you leave, you have to create it for yourself. You have to create structure for yourself. And as a veterans life coach, I run into the same each client I've had in the past is, I can almost guarantee tell you the problems that they're gonna have, the problems that they're facing. I can almost guarantee the stories are rarely different. Is, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. My job doesn't transfer over to the military, or I don't want to do that job anymore. I don't know where I want to live. I don't know what I want to go to school for. I really don't know what I want to do for money, because I'm an E5 or E6 or even an E7 that has transitioned out, or that is about to transition out, and I make X amount of money. Right? So as an E5, when I got out, I was probably making about almost $60,000 a year. Almost $60,000 a year. It was like 58 something. With like all the extra stipends, like for my housing allowance and all that. So I'm making about almost 60,000 when I get out. So I'm like, I gotta find a job that's gonna pay me around that much. And I don't know if y'all done checked the scoreboard lately, but minimum wage in a lot of areas is like $7.50. I know here in Texas it's like still $7 and some change. You might move to a place where it's like $12 to $15, and even with a degree, they trying to pay people $20 an hour. So, and I'm making $58,000 after tax. So if I take a job making $60,000 before taxes, baby, I'm really only making like $48,000. So now I'm stressed. Like, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get this money by tomorrow. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get this money by tomorrow. So that created a super duper amount of stress. Now, this is a Six Figure Vet podcast, and it's a Six Figure Vet podcast for a reason. Did you hear me? But once I did, so then, I started working this job in DC, where I was making a decent amount of money, and I was going to school, and I thought I just had, I thought I had a success proof plan. I ended up scoring this job with a great salary, and then, I'm getting DC BAH because I'm in school, get my bachelor's degree, and I was still unhappy because it was not what I wanted to do. And I think that that's a big thing that affects the mental health of veterans, is that when we get out of the military, the only thing that we're focused on is supplementing the income. That's what we're focused on. We are focused on, I need to be able to make more, or at least at minimum the same amount of money that I was making while I was in. And that's the only thing we focus on. But the money, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, but y'all, the money gonna come. The money gonna come. If you get a life coach like myself, baby, we're going to secure the disability because you're entitled to it if anything is wrong with you. School, securing a job, the money usually comes. What happens is, and where you see the major depressive episodes within veterans, is they're unhappy. They're not sad. You go from this high stress job, and that's another thing. Going from extreme to extreme is not healthy. It's I don't care if it's good extreme, bad extreme, or bad extreme, like, okay, I'm working a super stressful job and I have no free time and I just know what I'm doing, to having all the time in the world. You have to transition. Like, there has to be a transition phase, because anything that has a too fast of an effect, or too fast of it happens too fast, you go, like, your body does something weird. Your body goes into fight or flight because you have normalized one thing. So when you jump from one normal to another normal, it almost like puts you in shock, because anything outside of normal, our bodies and our minds, and believe me on this, y'all, because I'm a psych major, our bodies and our minds say, hey, this is outside of our normal, and anything outside of normal is dangerous for us. Anything outside of normal is dangerous for us. So what is happening? And, we go from this super stressful, high paced job to being a clerk or doing something that doesn't require a lot of our time, and we're getting the money and we have all this free time, and now we're in our thoughts. Now we don't have anything to do. Now we're overthinking. Now we are slowly but surely falling into a depression. Another thing that I want to shed light on is that I feel like triggers the anxiety and depressive episodes post-military, is figuring out what success looks like for you, right? So, and I've had this conversation with so many of my veteran friends. When you're in the military, they basically tell you what your success gonna look like. If you do X, Y, and Z, this is going to be the outcome. If you do 8, 9, and 10, you're going to make chief. If you do 11, 12, and 13, then, you're going to get this. If you do 16, 17, and 18, you'll win X amount of awards. And every time you accomplish that, it's a reward at the end. It's recognition. It's accolades. No, once you get out of the military, nobody sets those milestones up for you anymore. It's up to you to create those milestones. And that is very challenging to do when you have literally been told or hand walked for 4 to 20 years on success, right? That's why, it is imperative for you to define your goals, for you to define the things that you want to see happen and do in your life prior to getting out, or at least have an idea, right? I honestly think now the relationship that I have with goal setting and dreaming, that is the hard part. Is granting yourself the permission to have a dream, to have a goal, right? And then creating it. You can Google the steps to accomplish what you want to be. If you want to be a content creator, baby, they got a coach, a guru for everything out here. If you want to, be a successful real estate agent, you want to be a project manager, you want to be an engineer, you want to be a politician, you want to be an advocate. They have steps. You can YouTube the steps to do that. But can't nobody tell you or guide you on what it is that you want to do. That's something that you have to figure out for yourself. So I don't honestly think that the steps in how to achieve these goals is the hard part. That's not the hard part. I mean, yeah, putting the work in it's not the best, but that's how to do that. The how to is not the hard part. It's creating the goal. It's creating the goal in itself, because you have to first give yourself the permission to say, hey, I can actually do this, and this is what I want to do. Then is figuring out, okay, what makes me feel good? What is going to make me feel accomplished? Because for, like I said, 4 to 20 years, you've had this system and you've had this organization or this establishment telling you, hey, this is what you need to do to be successful. And this is what success looks like. Success looks like making ranks. Success looks like winning boards. Success looks like getting the location that you choose to, or being stationed overseas. That's what success looks like. And they're telling you that that's what success looks like. So that's what you're aiming for. And then not only are they telling you the milestones that you need to reach, they're telling you how to get there. They literally have mentors. Shout out to Brian Walker. He was my mentor in the military amongst amazing other people, but Brian's the first person that came to my head. He was a mentor for me. Like, yo, if you want to win this board, if you want to do this, if you want to shine, if you want to be like this, this is how you need to dress. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to walk. This is how you need to present yourself, right? Literally guided me through on how to do that. But once I got out, I had nobody to tell me these things. I had nobody to say, okay, Jalen, okay, if you want to, if this needs to be your goal. This needs to be your goal. I had to create that for myself. And that was probably the most challenging thing for me, because I thought that getting out would, that the goal would just be, okay, I need to stay in the same career field. I got almost 10 years of experience in this specific field with the military, so I can get a government job, I can get my degree, I can make all this money. But then when I actually start doing the steps to achieve those goals, I was absolutely positively miserable. I hated life. And I just had to be real and say, I didn't get out the military to stay miserable. Like, yeah, I'm making all this money. Yeah, I'm in school and about to get this degree soon, but I don't like what I'm doing. This is not that enjoyable for me. Like, this is giving miserable. Very, very, very much giving miserable. And that probably scared me more, because I realized you done got out the military. You done got out the military to do whatever, and now you're doing whatever and you still ain't happy. So what now? And it's hard answering the what now. And that is something that I feel like triggers anxiety and depression post-military service. It's figuring out the what now. Also, when you are okay, so we done talked a lot about anxiety, depression, knowing what to look for, how it happens, triggers, all of that, right? How do we combat anxiety and depression and PTSD, right, on a daily basis? How do you do that? It's finding healthy ways to take care of yourself. And I really really hate social media culture where they say where they're trying to make taking care of yourself look expensive, because it can be, but it shouldn't be. Prioritizing your mental health could look like saying no. Prioritizing your mental health could look like saying not right now. Prioritizing your mental health could be doing absolutely nothing for a day. That's what that is what those are free ways to take care of yourself. Um Finding healthy ways to let off steam. Finding healthy ways to let off steam so you don't feel overwhelmed, whether it's going to the gym. I know a lot of my vets have picked up like some type of exercise or ways to move your body. I definitely want to give a shout out to exercise. There has been so much research done around how exercising and moving your body releases serotonin. I'm pretty sure we all know that, but it literally makes you happy to move. So find activities that you like to do that include moving your body, whether it's going for a walk, going for a jog. I implore everybody to create a safety plan. A safety plan is something that you have or that you do that when you do start feeling these feelings of anxiety, PTSD, or depression, you can pull out this safety plan and utilize the things on this list. Now, usually safety plans are put in place for those that have suicidal ideation or past suicidal attempts. However, I think that everyone should have a safety plan. And like I said, safety plans are to be utilized anytime things are starting to feel too heavy. Things that could be on your safety plan is listening to your favorite podcast, listening to having a playlist that makes you feel good. I have a happy playlist. I have a My God My Way playlist that I can share at the bottom of this video. Like I said, working out, journaling, taking a day off. Taking a mental health days are real things where you do absolutely nothing related to what stresses you out, whether that be work, whether that be, sometimes we can't get away from our stressors, aka our kids or our spouses. If you know, you know. My son is definitely one of my major stressors because he's ghetto, but um finding ways to take breaks from the things that stress you out. Those are great ways to take care of yourself. Of course, going on vacations, getting your nails done, da 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 da. But those things cost money. I want to give you cost effective ways to take care of yourself. Reading a book, okay? Stretching in the morning time, meditating. Meditating is amazing. A lot of people think it's hard, but practice makes perfect. Your day one is going to look a lot different than your day 100. So practicing ways to take care of yourself is super duper important. And no, lastly, I want to leave you guys with this last piece of advice. Know your own limits. When you are feeling like you are becoming overwhelmed, know when it's time to stop. Know when it's time to say no. Know when it's time to walk away from whatever it is that's making you stressed out. And even if it's only temporary, because like I said, some of our stressors are things that we cannot live without, like our job, like our children, like our spouses, like our parents, like loved ones. You just can't say, okay, you're too stressful and I'm just done with you. You can't do that. But know when it's time to pull away. And there is resources out there for veterans that are experiencing mental health crisis, suicidal ideations, or homicidal ideations. And that number is 988. I repeat, that number is 988. You've probably heard me say it at the end of every single video that I've created, but that number is 988. If you are a veteran, an active duty service member, or a family member of an active duty service member or veteran, you can reach out to 988, and there are trained crisis responders there to help you and support you through whatever it is you're going through. Okay. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. I think this is probably one of the most important videos I've ever created or posted to this platform. At the Six Figure Vet on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Thank you so much. And this has been another amazing episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast. The Six Figure Vet is out.
Quantum Records.